Dark processing. In this video, I'm going to show you how I turned this image here into this image here. But it all happened before the processing. That's the main key to this. What this involves is exposing to the right. And what I mean by that is, instead of shooting where the exposure seems correct within the camera, actually overexpose ever so slightly. And what you're doing there is you're giving yourself latitude when it comes to editing, especially in the shadows. You don't want to blow out your image, so you want to keep an eye on your histogram when you're actually shooting, but you don't want to blow out your image either. You want to be able to retain enough detail and enough colour information to be able to process the image darker. That's the main thing here. So when I was shooting this image, I was visualising this as a darker edit. Not just capturing it in a couple of tweaks in Luminar, Photoshop or whatever, and then saying there's the final image. I was actually looking at it, and when I was exposing to the right ever so slightly, so that I knew I would retain detail in my shadows. And it's rather a long video as well, so hopefully you'll stick with it to the end just to see the processes involved. I've sped it up slightly for this edit, just to give you the kind of baseline of it all. When I'm actually editing these, and this is the actual final image here, it takes a lot longer than it does with this video, because there's other things to take into consideration. There's small tweaks. I'm not missing anything out in the video. I'm just giving you the overall view of how to process and what to think about and what considerations to make. When you actually come to do it yourself, you will take longer to do it. So this is a tutorial based on the concept of doing it. It's not the final image, and I say that in all my videos as well. What I'm showing you is not the final image that you will get if you follow these steps, or if you tweak these steps and do it your own way, whatever. What I'm showing you is this is the basis of it. You go and explore how you want to do it. So that's where my tutorials are based around. When I'm doing them, they take longer than it does to show you the video. And that's, I suppose, what everybody does as well. So as this is quite a long edit, I'll dive right in and let you see the process from start to finish. Let's go. Okay, so now that that's in Luminar, as you know, I use Luminar as both a standalone and a plug-in for Photoshop. So the first thing I want to do is I want to balance out the colour profiles. So if I go into light and I go into the advanced settings, you can see that the profile is a Luminar default. What I need to do is take it to the Adobe standard, which is Adobe 1998 standard profile. So I take it to that, and I don't know if you saw any change there at all. You see it just slightly change? So I'll take that back into there. Before I start anything at all in the edit, I'm going to crop the image. When I shot this, it was quite light, as you can see way up here, and to be able to do the dark processing, you need to have enough dynamic range in the shadows as well. So that I have in here, and you can see that by the histogram here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crop this because I don't want the light up here. Yes, I could go in and I could clone stamp it, and some of it I possibly will, but for now what I'm going to do is I'm going to crop it. I'm going to the crop module, and I am going to pull this down, and as you can see it's locked at that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unlock it. I'm not going to get into the aspect ratios. I'm going to do this as a free edit. So I'm going to take that down to about there. That way it ensures that I take out quite a bit of the sky up here. And for this, I'm quite happy with that. So I'm going to click done. So that says we've already got the image sitting to where we want it for the crop. If I was working in Photoshop, I'd edit the entire image nearly and then crop it, depending on what I wanted and depending if I was going to fill in some of the sky. And actually up here I am. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get into clone and stamp, and I am going to take out some of this area here. So hold down Alt to select a source. And it's quite dark there, but I want to bring some of these through. So I'm going to click there, take the brush size down using the square brackets, and I'm just going to paint in there just quite gently to see. Because I'm doing a dark process with this, these will not show up too much. And the purpose of this video is just to show you just different ways of editing. So this is never going to get printed from this for the reasons I would take my time more so than I am with this video. For that there, that just looks as if it's dropping into the screen. So what I'm also going to do is I'm going to take that out for this. And we will work from here now. So each time I am taking a different source point. And it's getting a wee bit messy up there, but nothing that we can't work with for now. So I'm going to leave that at that, and then I'm going to click done. Okay, now that that's done, what has happened now is we have the base NEF layer, the raw file, plus a clone and stamp layer. So I'm going to start working into this layer here. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going into the light panel, and I am going to bring the exposure down slightly. Not too much, because I still want to retain some depth and dynamic range in the shadow. So I'll bring it down there, I'll push the contrast up just a little bit. Highlights I'm going to leave just now, because I'm going to be playing with these later in the edit. Shadows. Now, because we're going for a dark edit, we need to pull them back, but not too much so that we don't lose any detail. Whites and all the colours within here are fine, so I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to leave it at that for this. Next thing, I'm going to get into AI Enhance, and I'm going to use the AI accent just to bring out some detail. It will bring it out globally. I may go back in and take it out in the background. So I'm just going to push that there. So I know that that's sitting on that layer if I want to go back in and edit that. It's leaving the detail and everything fine. AI structure, I'm going to push that a bit. And I'm going to leave that there. But I don't want the structure to be applied to the rest of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit the mask, and I'm going to use the brush. And I'm going to use paint. And I'm only going to paint the structure into certain areas. And for the purposes of this video, I'll be quite liberal with this. So I'm not going to take my time and go through each branch as it sits. So we'll just go there, just the areas I want to emphasise. So up there, take that right to the top. I'll just check where I've painted already. So that's where I've painted already, so I've still the rest of the branches to do. So I'll come down here, go across. And each time I'm doing this, I'm deciding what areas I want to stand out and that I want the AI structure to be applied to. So far so good. I may go back in, I'll check my mask, and I'll see if I've missed any areas. Although that's in the background, it may just help the image. Still the top of the tree here to do, so I'm going to turn that down. And just one wee click there, take the brush size down and just take that through there. Last time I'm going to check the mask. So you get the idea of what I'm trying to achieve with this. I'm just trying to bring in areas of interest for this. And we'll just take that up there. You may notice a slight delay with this. It's because I'm using a different monitor. I'm working from the Mac, but I'm using a different monitor to edit. So there's a slight delay with this. Right, colour. This is where I would love to see the magic happens, but it's not. This is just where I decide where my greens are going to go. So with this, I am going to pull the saturation back slightly. I'm also going to pull the vibrance back slightly because I'm going for a dark, moody edit with this one. I'm going to get into the yellows, and I'm going to pull the saturation back in the yellows, taking care not to drop them right back, just to leave them a kind of decent area that I'm happy with. I'm also going to bring the luminance back in the yellows, just to around there. Then I'm going to get in and tackle the greens. I'm going to pull the saturation back, but again only slightly, and -11 might just be too much. Then I'm going to pull the luminance back, because our main focus is going to be this tree, and already you can see if I go in here, you can see that we are getting there with this dark edit. And it's not just a case of darkening everything down to get the dark process for it. It's choosing what areas that you want to emphasize as well. And as you know, I'm going to be emphasizing this tree the further we get into this edit. But right now I'm kind of establishing a basis of where I'm going to go. And that's an important thing when you're doing any edit. You don't just jump in and go, I want this to be like this or I want this to be like that. You have to balance everything out. So I'm going to go for this right now. I'm quite happy with that. Details enhancer. I could go in and I could pull the small details back to soften the image. But as you see, that's a global effect, and it's also it's quite mushy in the background here as well. So what I'm going to do, I'll reset it. I'm going to push it slightly, just to around there. I'm quite happy again with that. Denoise I'm not going to tackle. Landscape enhancer, I may push the golden hour just slightly. We'll just see. Yep, quite like that. Quite like the effect that that's had, and it's subtle. So that's it. Being subtle with your images and being subtle with your editing can really emphasize the overall effect of the image. Right, okay, next thing I am going to do, I am going to create a new layer for this one, because anything that I've done already sits on that clone stamp layer. So what I'm going to do now is do some more edits above this. I'm going to create a new adjustment layer, and in this new adjustment layer I am going to go straight into the creative tab, and I am going to go for the mystical look. And with the mystical look I am going to push that quite a bit to around about there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove that mystical edit from the tree, because I want to emphasize the tree. So what I would do is I would go in and paint in the mask and do that, or I can go back. If you're following the channel, you'll notice that I'm creating small 2 to 3 minute videos on just how to use certain tools in Photoshop, Lightroom and Luminar. And this is one of the ones that I've just done, which is copying a mask. Right, so I'm going to get back into the clone and stamp. And within this layer, I know that I did an edit with the AI structure, and there's the mask there. If I drop that down, you can see there's the mask. So if I copy that, copy, so that's me copied the mask here, which was the tree. Then I'm going to get back up into my new adjustment layer, and I'm going to go in to the mystical, and I'm going to edit the mask. I take the brush and I'm just going to paint once, and that will create a mask on here for me. So there you go, there's the mask being created. What I want to do now is I want to paste that mask from the AI structure layer, which is paste. There we have that mask. So the mystical is only being applied to the white areas in this mask. I want it applied to the background and everything else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to invert, and it's now applied it to everything else. There we have it. Right, so we're getting there. We're getting the basis of this in, and we're actually quite far into it already. Next thing I'm going to do is I am going to go in to the portrait, and I'm going to add the high key for this one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to push the amount of the high key. If I push that really far, you'll see that happens, which is a bit too much for this, because I just want to emphasize the lighter areas in this, and it's going to add to the image overall. So I'm going to pull that back, and I'm going to push it to around there, and that will help ever so slightly lift some of this image. I'll take it a bit further actually. That I'm quite happy with. If I turn this on and off, you'll see the difference. So you see the shadows get slightly darker and the lights get slightly lighter with this. I could go in and adjust some of these, but I'm quite happy with the effect that I've got there just now. So my next edit would be the autumn effect. And I'm going to push the autumn effect, not too much, but just to around about there. So you can see the difference that that has made as well. Next thing, I could add a vignette into this area, and I'm going to, but what I'm going to do with it is I'm going to do this subtly. And I'm going to take the vignette to about there. And yes, I am using the vignette to darken down the image, to darken down the the edges of it so that it pulls you more into the tree, but we've still something else to do to the tree as well. So I'm going to pull that back a bit further, and you can see the tree standing out. I'm then going to choose my subject, and I'm going to make the tree my subject. So what it's done actually is it has moved the centre point of the vignette over to the tree. So this side here has automatically became that a little bit darker. So far so good. I'm liking how this is turning out. So I'll just show you where we started. So that's what we brought in. Quite a decent dynamic range within the shadows in the image and quite a light image. But because it is like that and because it has got so much dynamic range, what it's allowing us to do is take it back to this. And as I say, I am quite happy with that. I'm going to add a little more to it and then we're nearly done. So next thing, I'm going to add another layer. And the reason I create so many layers is so that I can actually go in and just turn off the layer to see if I like the effect beforehand, instead of jumping in through Creative Essentials, whatever tab it is, and turning areas on and off. I can just turn the entire layer off and it lets me see where I'm going. For this, I'm going to get into the Pro and Adjustable Gradient, and I'm going to use the top and I'm going to pull the exposure back. And if it gets too much, we will see it straight away like that. Then I am going to set the orientation, and I'm going to take the orientation up to around there. I'm going to pull it that way. We had quite a lot of light. The sun was over here. The sun was not long to its set, but this image, there was too many midges about, so we couldn't stay. But this is what we managed to get. So you can see why I added a slight glow to it as well, because we're going for a golden hour shot. So that there I'm quite happy with. I may turn that down slightly. I don't want to over darken it or the colours become mushy. So yes, I'm quite happy with that. Right, next thing is we are going to go back in here and we're going to add more of an autumn effect. And I'm going to push this to around there, which softens down the image, darkens down the image while still retaining detail. And that actually looks okay at that. I'm quite happy with that so far. Back into the Pro mode, dodge and burn, start painting. And I am going to lighten some of these areas here. So it's lighten, but I'm going to take this strength right down. I'd rather paint quite a few times than paint once and have to delete it. So I'm going to just emphasise certain areas. That actually may have been a touch too much. And there, down here, I'm going to make the brush bigger for this. I'm going to paint down there. Make the brush smaller, and to make the brush smaller I'm using the square brackets. Paint in there. I'm going to emphasise some of these but not too much, and again I'm going to take this down even further because I want the main emphasis of this to be that tree. So I might just do a wee paint there. Won't catch that one, but I might catch that, and I might lead the eye off here. Just like that. So if I turn that off, turn it back on, you'll see the slight difference. But again, what it's done is it's drawn you into the eye. And the way we've edited this around it, surrounding the tree, is drawn you in even further. I would go on and paint more on this. And I'm going to keep the light in there. I'm going to take the brush down again, and I'm just going to catch the odd wee area now, just to help emphasise it. Take it there, because it's quite a gnarly tree and you want to emphasise that. I'm going to take that bit down there, take the brush size down, and I'm working with the tree and working with the light for this. So we're in there as well, in there, tiny bit in there, just catch that, there, and there. So that's it. That's the dark processing for this image. It will change with each image because you've got to look how the light is and how you want the final image to be. So, but that, I'll be honest, I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to try one more thing, because you're seeing me as I edit this. I haven't run through this one, so you're going to see me as I edit this. So I'm going to try one more thing just to see if it helps emphasize it even more. And it just depends how you're doing it, whether it will, and whether it will add to the final image or whether it will actually detract from the final image. So we have another layer in here, and actually this may detract from the image. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into the mystical again, and I'm going to put it over the entire image and then erase it from parts of the tree. So I'm going to push that to around there. And that looks okay, possibly a tad too dark. What I'm going to do just to check, turn it off, turn it back on. No, that's working, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase it from parts of the tree now. So we've applied twice the mystical over the top. Hopefully I'm not losing detail in any of the image. I'll go back in and I'll check that before finalising. But that's how we're getting this image down and down and down. We've started with a decent dynamic range. And if you look at the histogram now, how it's moved over from here right over towards the dark, but at the same time I'm not clipping anything, so I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to edit the mask here, I'm going to brush, and I'm going to go into the erase, and I'm going to take about 28 and I'm going to paint in here. So this is removing the mystical that we just applied, because in the underlying layers we have different edits going on. So I've still got a slight autumn going through this, I've still got a slight mystical going through the background, not entirely on this tree. So what I'm doing is I'm just bringing back an overall look. So some of the branches now have mystical on them that didn't have the mystical filter applied to them. And it's just looking at the image and reading the image and seeing what within your eye what you think's best for this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it at that, and then I'm going to take it into Photoshop and let you see the final process in the camera raw filter. So here's the final part of the process where I've taken it back into Photoshop, and someone recently asked me to export in JPEG or TIFF. Well, it's TIFF, but for this I've kept it to 8-bit. I haven't went 16-bit, which I usually edit in, so I've kept it at 8-bit for this, for the processing speed, because of the two screens and everything else, and just for this video as well. If you're editing and want the more detail, everything, edit in 16-bit if possible. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the last part of this process, and what I normally do is I will go up and go into Filter, Camera Raw Filter. And now that we're in Camera Raw Filter, this is just the finishing touches to this for me. So my main thing is here, and I may play with the exposure slightly because I'm just trying to finish off this image. And yes, I'm looking for a dark edit, but I want to see what happens with the exposure when I take it up too much, because we don't want to lose detail. Right, I'm going to leave the exposure, I'm going to push the contrast slightly, not much at all. Highlights, I'm going to emphasize slightly because that will bring them out in the tree. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the shadows back just slightly, not too much. Texture, let's emphasize it. Again, everything subtle, clarity. Dehaze is the one where we can play around with till we get it to where you want. And I want it around about there. That for me I'm quite happy with. I'm going to emphasize these, and I'm going to show you how I normally do this. What I do is I go into the radial filter, and I'll just do that, and I'll rotate it to where I want it, and I'll place it in there. Just take it to there, see, and I'll reset this, reset local corrections, and I'm going to push the exposure, but not too much. Again, everything's subtle. It has to be subtle for this. So I'm going to go for 10, and then I'm going to turn the mask on, turn the overlay off. So I can see that the mask has went onto some of the tree. Well, I'm going to add another radial filter here because the light's coming down, so I don't want it to double up here. So if you go into brush, on the minus and just paint that back out. That lets me see where it's painted out. I'll then turn the mask back off, and we have the overlay still turned off. So what we can do with the overlay, if I get back into edit, I can play with the exposure and I'll only see where it's affecting. It won't give me the circumference of it, so it's not off-putting. So I'm going to leave it about there. That's set at 15, so let's try 15 for here. But what I'll do is I'll do that, take it to there. Again, put the mask on. This time I know where I am, so I'm going to play with this area here. I'm just going to take that out. So there, that's it. So it's only affecting the area in red. I turn the overlay off. May turn that back slightly. Remember to go back to edit, take that down to say 10. That's okay. Put another one in here. I'm going to turn the overlay on. So I'm going to do that, and that's how I'm going to build up the rest of this image. So to save you sitting watching, I will speed through this and then I'll show you the final image. Well, hopefully you enjoyed that, and hopefully it lets you see just how you can utilise the software itself to create different images or give a different feel to the image from what you originally took. When I went to shoot these trees, that's what I had in mind. I wanted to emphasise the light. That's why we waited till later on in the day to go, and in fact we went nearer sunset hoping to get it with the golden glow of sunset. But unfortunately the midges won and we were eaten alive, so we left quicker than we had originally intended. We never had midgie nets or midgie cream or anything with us, so we had to leave early. They just get too much for us. But hopefully that lets you see that when you're taking the image, bringing in the entire dynamic range and shooting to the right slightly, if you've heard that saying before, allows you to get the entire dynamic range of the image, meaning that once you draw it back slightly with the exposure and the shadows, the detail still remains, the detail's still in the original shadows. So what it does is it overexposes slightly when you shoot the shadows, retaining that detail. So that's a good thing to do, and it's a good thing to employ. You'll notice that I've also started putting up some bite-sized videos, and these will continue throughout. It's so that I can put up more content, and hopefully it's useful content as well. For the first two that I've put up already, they last between 2 to 4 minutes, and I actually think one of them is only 1.5 minutes at the most. These are only going to be looking at small sections of software. But in this video here, I covered the radial filter. I'm going to be doing one in the radial filter as well, and different uses for that. So if you've got any suggestions at all for the bite-sized ones between 2 and 4 minutes and looking at a certain tool, why, where, or whatever you can use this for, what else you can use this for, please put it in the comment below, because that would be really helpful for me, and it means I can create a library of these. I'm going to be using them I teach at a local college, so I'm going to be using these for my students as well, so that I can send them and say, right, here's our quick reference for you, go in there, that's how you use the tool, after it's been demonstrated in class, and it's just a kind of memory recall type thing. So if you've got any ideas for the bite size, please put it in the comments below. Hopefully you enjoyed that, although it was a long video, but hopefully you enjoyed it. If you'd like to check out more videos, please check them out in the channel below. If you're currently not a subscriber, please consider subscribing, because that would be greatly appreciated. Remember, stay safe, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.